Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming out to. Hang on one second. I'm gonna fix this. Maybe. I don't know. All right. Getting a bit of an echo. Hoping I can fix this. All right. Let's try this again. Welcome to episode 24 of Lines on a Page. All right. We're going to be doing Hawkgirl today, so I'm pretty excited that we're going to be able to do this. Simply because I love drawing characters that are from not just the Justice League animated stuff, but simply a character that is technically considered a Golden Age character. And they're typically a fun one to do, especially with next week's that we're going to be doing, which is Shazam. But before I can get into any of all that, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick housekeeping. And so, Haven Comics is located at 1871 Slaughter Road in Madison, Alabama. And if you happen to like the show, any other show that Haven Comics does, please remember to like and subscribe, and be sure to click the little bell notification so you can be updated as to whenever we're going live, or have even posted any of our shorts if you happen to be watching on YouTube. Now, if you just want to figure out, well, where can you find me on social media? Well, you can find me through Linktree at tpriceartworks. And I am on every social media outlet, so if you can find me there, more likely I'm there. Which reminds me, as far as just everything as where you can find me, I will be at the Huntsville Expo, which is going to be on I believe it's the last weekend of April, the 21st through the 23rd. So if you haven't gotten your tickets for the Huntsville Expo, highly recommend going ahead and trying to get some as of right now. So Haven Comics actually does have single day passes. They also have weekend passes. I highly recommend getting the weekend pass, and that's just because if there just happens to be a situation where if you've got a single day pass and it happens to be on the day that you're not going to be able to make it, it sucks because you're not going to be able to use it. The weekend pass, however, if you happen to miss a day, you always have 2 other days you can go and go ahead and have your pass available, so you're not having to worry about anything extra. But that's just personally me. All right, looks like we got some people in the comments. Got a strange echo going on. I know. I've noticed that, and I don't know why. I know nothing about the VIP stuff. You're going to have to ask Jeremy Long about that. That's all I know. So I'm just letting people know that is that helping? No. Lou?
Here we go. Fixed it. I knew there was some mic on. All right. But yeah, like I said, Justin, you're going to have to ask Jeremy Long about that stuff. I know nothing about it. So yeah. And I'm hoping that the echo is fixed, Alan. And yeah, so here we go. And begin. Bloop. All right. Hawkgirl, Hawkgirl, Hawkgirl. I think, like a lot of people, when it comes to like DC stuff, I think everyone just kind of knows about Hawkman more than Hawkgirl, which makes sense. As far as just Golden Age stuff, even though the Hawkgirl has technically been around since the 40s, but she's had 3 different variations of the same character, and it's mainly just the person who just happens to be Hawkgirl, which in some ways also kind of muddles the continuity a bit with the constant revisions or retcons or whatever. But I think the main consensus is that Shiera Hull is kind of always been Hawkgirl and Connor Hall is Hawkman, so makes sense. But it still just kind of gets into that whole weird situation of, are they, descendants of Egyptian gods? Are they aliens? Technically are, because Thanagar is on another planet from another galaxy. So it's just a whole lot of this, that, and the other. Hello, Tots. Yes. If I remember correctly, I want to say that Joe Kubert did Hawkman for a time. I know that he was primarily focused on doing Sergeant Rock, as far as just that beginning Golden Age stuff with DC. It looks like we already got a question before I even started drawing anything. When drawing feathers, do you have a pre-planned lines, or is it just going to go with the feel? Well, so that's actually a really good question. Considering that Hawkgirl now has metallic feathers, we're not doing that. Simply because that's just going to be less of a pain on me, so I'm not having to deal with like reflective light and extra shading, this, that, and the other. So whereas with normal feathers, it's definitely going to be a bit more on the organic side. It is going to be a little bit on the field kind of side. But there is actual structure to it, because like all, winged animals, there is especially with birds, there is a specific way that the wingspan is kind of structured out, because you have like when it comes to the actual wings. So I'm going to use my arm for a second, and I'm going to do that, be a little bit easier. So if you're thinking of it in terms of a wing right here, using my arm for example, there's going to be an entire section where it's mostly a lot of short feathers. They're all kind of clumped together, but that is kind of the main fold, and then the longer feathers are connected out of that, going down, and they are kind of stacked, kind of layered. But we're going to mess around with it. We're going to see what's going to end up happening. But we're going to be I'm going to try to see if I can get the pencil outline done as quick as possible. But there are going to be two things that are going to be the main focal points to make sure that we don't screw up. The one thing is going to be the wingspan with the feathers, and how we're going to be putting together with the rest of the human body. And the second thing is going to be the helmet. And the reason why I'm choosing the helmet out of any other different thing is that there have been variations of the same concept of her helmet. And so, if you do one part of the helmet too long from the other, it just looks really weird. And if you want to know what I mean by that, just type in Hawkgirl art on Google, and you'll see a couple different people who I'm not even sure which artist it is, but there is one photo, and it does look a little wonky. Speak about characters in a very different way than the average bear. So when it comes to a lot of the Golden Age DC characters, especially JSA characters, compared to Owen, my knowledge is baseline. But if you stuck me next to the ordinary person off the street, I know a heck of a lot more than they do. But the one thing that I have known when it comes to both Hawkman and Hawkgirl is that, which I mean, I can say the same thing about a lot of DC characters. There's been a lot of continuity changes, and their background is probably the most muddled out of all the backgrounds of any characters that have had retcons. So that being said, I am going to be going back and forth between one or two different references. One of them is going to be the Bruce Timm design, or is it Darwin Cook? I think it's Bruce Timm. And then the other is going to be a Arthur Adams one. They're pretty similar in terms of just, I guess, the mainline concept of the character, but it's mainly for the wings more than anything else. But before I continue, swig of water. So I think what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to have her basically just kind of, floating in the sky. The wingspan is just kind of out, and I don't want to say it's a very Superman-ish kind of pose, but definitely a very it's not exactly like a Kingdom Come, kind of, pose, but it has that iconic kind of feel I want to do. Which is really, really strange because, Hawkgirl and Hawkman, I want to say they're probably about the same in terms of like, we're looking at power set, strength, and all that stuff. I want to say they're probably about similar. Um, of course, there's probably going to be someone out there who, is going to, push their glasses up their nose and be like, actually, um, and that's fine. But kind of wanted to give off this kind of Kingdom Come kind of pose, while also holding the mace. Do you enjoy a consistent character? Do you, or do the continuity changes give you more freedom? Hmm, that's a really good question. Um, I think it really depends on which character it is and when the continuity change happens, and if it affects my first impressions of ever being introduced to a character. Um, I think that's really where the line kind of draws itself out. So, for example, Spider-Man. Um, my first real introduction to Spider-Man um, was both um, watching what is it, the Electric Company, and this is really weird because like the Electric Company had been like done and over with, but there were like rerun episodes of it on PBS, and of course they had an animated Spider-Man interjected within the Electric Company, and so that was technically my first introduction to the character, as well as unfortunately watching the 70s Japanese Spider-Man where he's got a submachine gun and a giant robot of all things. So, but that aside, you know, I was never introduced to the storyline involving Gwen Stacy. I've always known, growing up, Spider-Man was always in love with MJ until Felicia Hardy comes along, and you know, things get muddled, and the whole situation of um, you know, actually reading that classic storyline uh, of Gwen Stacy, um, definitely changed a lot of things in terms of like understanding the character. But when it got to a situation of say, you know, he and MJ, they finally got married, and then someone with Marvel editorial decided, well, we're going to cause them to not ever have their happy life and divorce them. Uh, so like the whole like renew your vows situation, like that's just been kind of thrown out of the works. And I think a lot of people have pointed the blame at Joe Quesada at that. I don't know if that's 100% accurate. I'm pretty sure either Josh or Alan or even Nick from Two Bros would probably give you a better answer on that. But um, that definitely screws up a lot of things in terms of just the characters and whatnot, which is why I loved how with Ultimate Spider-Man it kind of just went straight back to the beginning. Even though technically Gwen Stacy was in Ultimate Spider-Man, the romantic interest was actually more towards MJ, and it also kind of directed itself a little bit closer to the original Spider-Man movies. Um, I think this is what makes Deadpool so fun, as long as he has a mask with the black eyes. You say this, and then we got Wolverine Origins, and we all know what happened. Yes, Renew Your Vows definitely was kind of an alternate storyline situation. Um, which I think at the same time that was going on was when you had the whole X-Men wedding situation between Colossus and Kitty Pryde, and then uh, I mean, you would think that these two would actually get married because of just how long their relationship has been within Marvel Universe. And then just all of a sudden, it was just like, no, we're going to have her face through Colossus's hand. And then she just kind of pulls a runaway bride and runs off with Star Lord. I mean, the whole that whole choice situation was just terrible. And I'm not the only person that kind of felt that way. It just felt very out of sync with the character. You're right. There was no mask, but still had, you know, the whole thing with the eyes situation. But it's just like you can't really do literally everything, because you do have those situations where something like that happens and then it's terrible. But I do like the fact how at the end of Deadpool 2, it's now continuity where he just kind of fourth walls and kills himself or a version of himself. Hmm. Think make this a little bit easier. Yeah. I am going to be pulling a bit of a Bob Ross by telling you that there will be happy little clouds in the background. All right. So now that I have basically the rough sketch idea as to the anatomy, then I'm going to basically just kind of rough in exactly as to where, squeeze this in just a little bit, of just putting together the wings. So if shoulder blade is going to be roughly in this area right here, then it stands to reason that there's going to be first one right here, and then second shoulder blade right there. And then it kind of bows out just a little bit, and then that number. And we're going to say that there's probably going to be about section of short feathers right here, and another section of short feathers right there. I know it looks really derpy right now, but it'll make sense once we start putting it all together. And once those are there, and this is where the larger feathers start fanning out just a bit more. So yes, the happy clouds. I'm just going to say that Wolverine Origins Deadpool is not the thing you should change up. That's all I'm saying. All right. So now that we have basically just a guideline as to where feathers want to be at, um, clean this up just a little bit. All right. So we're going to start working on the mask. Um, So there are several different variations of the mask involving the character. One is a little bit closer to like I wouldn't necessarily say that it's like a mix between like a hoplite or a centurion type mask with, you know, some eras of the character. Other times it's a little bit literally looks like a hawk's head, basically, with very big cartoony eyes. And then there are others which, when we start getting into, say, the Justice League animated film, going into current Justice League, um, it's not, you know, made of. I don't want to say that it's not made of metal. It probably is, or maybe out of nth metal, but it's definitely doesn't look like it in terms of the way that it's drawn. But it still has the whole hawk motif going on. So we're going to be doing our um, 3x1y guideline with the face. Sorry, felt an eyelash about to fall into my eye. So if we're to assume that the eyes are going to be right here and right here, then the beak part of the mask, or the point of it, is going to be right there. And just kind of fans out just a bit. So the top of her head is going to be roughly about right here. And then it's going to fan up on either direction on this side. So all we have to do is just kind of close it in. And voila, you basically have bringing it in just a little bit. Now you basically have the horns part, which is really interesting that they chose that as the helmet for both Hawkman and Hawkgirl, because it looks a little bit more like an owl. Because if I remember correctly, in Barn Isles, they actually have like a, you know, couple of feathers that kind of look like horns. And yeah. Thank you, Joshua. Um, it was in the script. That's all I'm saying. it's been really interesting to go back to doing traditional, simply because I've basically spent most of this week uh, doing a lot of digital coloring and just relearning how to do stuff. So today is actually the first day this week that I've done anything traditional. Oops. I know with the recent iterations of um, of Shiera, she has shorter hair, but I kind of wanted to bring back the longer haired version. Bring this back just a little bit. Now, I'm probably not going to be doing the weird. Okay, I say weird. It's technically more of a classic look with the yellow corset thing. Um, but I'm going to be skipping doing that, and I'm actually going to be doing more of the newer look, which, when it comes to character designs, I think the ones that I've seen that have been given the most crap, aside from briefs over tights, uh, is the whole female costumes kind of situation. And when it comes to a situation with Hawkgirl, I have a choice of either a corset or a really sleek looking sports bra. So I don't really have many choices. I know there is a version where she's got a whole set of armor, but I'm going to go with the more modern and have the sports bra thing going on. Because I mean, it's basically lesser of two evil kind of situation. I can't remember if there is. Um, okay. I see what's going on. Okay. So I'm basically just kind of going back and forth to see whether or not if there was a specific cut around the neckline. And it looks like it basically goes up to her neck. So I'm going to do basically same thing. Let's see. What was I thinking of? No, I have seen versions of like the fully armored Hawkgirl, and while I do like the whole, kind of giving her a bit of a God of War kind of situation with, the giant shoulder pad only on one side. Um, what people don't really seem to understand is that when doing an armor design, so you never ever put the the hand that they are primarily going to be wielding the weapon on the same hand that is fully padded up or armored up. If they're going for the whole asymmetrical gladiator God of War kind of thing, because it's very bulky, it's very cumbersome, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Unless they've got a shield in the other arm, then it does make sense to a degree. Um, but it doesn't make any sense why a person would have the armor only on uh, the same predominant hand that they're using to wield the weapon. Because I mean, you're kind of having to think about reactionary time of having to wield the weapon, regardless if it's a mace or a broadsword, a trident. But I am going to give her gauntlets. Gotta keep that going on. And yeah. And you know what? I think that might be a good idea as far as just giving her some added maximum damage. I want to put some knuckle studs. Because don't know if you need to kind of pseudo brass knuckle. Oh crap! What's the name of Darkseid's minions? Are parademons? That's what they're called. Got a brass knuckles and parademons. Okay, so I'm gonna have her belt kind of sash over this way. So for the boots, we're going to be doing um, something that is both boot-like and something I guess would be kind of in line with the whole avian hawk kind of situation. That's kind of giving not really like talent, uh, but something near the foot, kind of like an armament of sort, uh, but still functional. As along with brass knuckles to punch parademons. Sometimes you just kind of need a spike shoe to kick them where it hurts. Yes, please be sure to United States smash that like button. Exactly does the design go? Hmm. Decisions. Okay. All right. I need a ruler. And you know what? Angle this just a bit. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I think what I'm going to be doing to make, I don't really want to say to make it more interesting or less interesting or whatever, but what I am going to be doing is that this part, because I'm going to be inking this as well. These parts right here, I'm putting an X, are going to be what's known as an area that's going to be where it's going to be completely black on both sides of the face mask. And considering that her character is typically shown as either having uh, somewhere between a brunette to a auburn-ish kind of hair, I'm going to be having the shading of the hair kind of melding in with the black of the headset, so it kind of gives off a bit of a different idea. So well, going to be something like that. All right. So now that we have established, we're going to be dropping in the blacks and melding it in with, well, the blacks within the hair, melding it in with the sides of the helmet. Going to be kind of doing a similar-ish approach to the top. So let me double check something real quick. That's what I thought. Okay. So I'm going to kind of go over this area right here just to give you an idea of boob one, boob two, and thinking about light hitting something that is that has a shape, regardless if it's spherical or a pyramid or rectangular, what have you, rhombus even. But light and shadow hitting, for instance, we're going to do like say a ball. You're going to have your obvious highlights, and then of course you would think everything else is going to have shadow. Sometimes there is a what's known as a rim light or a secondary light source that might actually come in from the bottom. You see this a lot with a lot of the 90s artists, and they kind of abused the secondary light source kind of situation. Simply because no one was really doing it at the time, so it was just kind of let's do it, kind of thing, which was very much the mindset back then. Um, but it also kind of put in the question of, is everything, this metallic looking? Are we going to be having this kind of chrome, sort of thing going on with highlights and stuff like that? Because fabric isn't always like that. Especially when we're getting to a situation like superhero outfits and stuff like that. So what is going to happen is that this middle part right here, and also what's going to be the lower abdomen, groin area of um, her outfit, that's going to be completely just left alone and blank. And the reason behind that is that because if, for instance, you were going to be throwing colors on it, uh, it's going to be yellow. So it kind of makes sense just to kind of leave that alone and give it its own, I guess, absence. But with the rest of this part right here, and then when we're getting to the legs and stuff like that, we're going to be dropping in sections where we're going to be able to tell, okay, there's muscle going on here, is a different type of fabric. So that being said, so that's going to be highlight number one. And we're going to just quickly throw in some hatching. Then so this area with the crap, it obviously rib cage, medical term, I think it's the serratus abdominis. I think that's the Latin term for the rib cage muscles. But So this area right here, we are going to be putting in first erase some of this just to clean it up just a little bit. Right. So there is going to be almost kind of like a diamond shaped thing of sorts, but just to give the idea that there is some highlighting that's hitting right there in terms of uh, these muscles going in within the rib cage that are meeting down towards the abdomen. And it's right here uh, with what would be I mean, technically it's the pectorals, but basically what would be near the breast area. And then, so what's going to happen is that we're going to do this. And that's going to be the line weight of the back. And then with leg muscles, erase this right here just to clean it up. All right, so almost kind of the same situation with this right here. We're going to be doing kind of the same, dealing with the hips and the glutes, leading into uh, calves, hamstrings, quads. To quote Shirley Caesar, you name it. I think there's something that my mind is telling me like isn't. Double check. Mhm. And to search the recesses, though. Something that I had saved at some point last year. Huh. Okay. Was thinking about something else entirely, which is pretty bad on my end, but it's also pretty close to whatever it was that I was thinking. So while that is there, there's going to be a thin strip that we're going to leave blank, and it's going to kind of give off this the idea basically that there is, obviously two legs. But with this side, however, doing it just a little bit differently. All right. So, as I've stated before with some of the very early episodes, having a reference isn't bad because that's how you end up learning. What is bad is using the reference as a one-for-one copy instead of inspiration point. So, with these gauntlets, what I'm going to be doing is that hand area. Oof, those are going to be completely black, but these separated parts of the gauntlets, we're going to be adding in some little sections of a highlight. Borrow this. Slightly off. So I don't want the head of the mace to look too big. That's a bit more where I want it. And let's see. So the thing that I don't want to do, which I kind of already did, but I'm glad I caught myself. Um, when it comes to maces, you've got a couple different types. You have your obvious, what we're doing with this is the obvious ball type mace, which typically either has spikes or other protrusions that are in a semi-unified type thing. And then you also have the other type of mace, which you would see really with a lot of medieval European type maces, where the head is a little bit square ish, kind of boxy, and it's got these different type of folds. Folds is probably the wrong word, but something that you would generally see with wouldn't be England. It's probably more of a French or Italian design, but it has a specific um, curve, almost like a vase. But if a vase was like um, more of an X or 6-point pattern. Doing a really bad job in trying to explain some of this stuff. But if you take the time to Google, you know, medieval weaponry, or just head over to the nearest library. See exactly what I'm talking about. Grab this again. So the design, as far as just the ball type mace, is really falls upon where the protrusions lie, or uh, spikes, if you want to do spikes. In this case, we're just going to do a simple spherical protrusion. So we're going to be using this part as kind of like our main guideline idea. And then further out is going to be where the others are, or the other two. And then to offset that, you have a section of 2. And this is really bad that I even know half of this stuff just off the top of my head. But when you spend your summers you know, as a child, just doing book reports for your mom because she doesn't want you wasting time away, even though you found moments to sneak in playing Zelda on the Game Boy and stuff like that. Um, I was still able to, you know, learn about some cool things that looking back um, makes sense. Okay, so we've got all this done out of the way. I'm trying to think of the best way of how I want to start on the wings, other than obviously just starting on the wings. But thank you, Alan. Or in terms of Key and Peele, Elan. All right. So it's looking like we're getting to the hour 30 mark. I think what I'm going to be doing is for the rest of this, probably won't ink this live, but I will be inking this and posting the final. But I do want to get the pencils down so that we've got that on record for the show. So, like I said earlier, which I'm going to scroll back up to that question, which is the whole thing with the drawing feathers. There is going to be a pre-plan, because I'm not sure if it's actually showing up on the camera, but I did mark off the section that is going to be the smaller clumps of feathers. Here and here, which is basically going to be the main bone structure area of what the wings would actually be. And then once we start adding in the larger feathers, it'll fit in after that. So yep. Going to lightly erase. I've gotten down as kind of a guide. So by just roughing in, these clumps of smaller feathers, we kind of just get an idea. And so what I'm trying to do is, well, first off, what you shouldn't do should be the thing I should be telling you first, and I want to do that. So off here on the side, what you should not do when it comes to feathers is when we're looking at a line of feathers like this, what you do not want to do is another identical off of that. Uh, what you should do if we're dealing with like a section of feathers like this, then we're going to deal with off of it. So in some ways, you can think of it almost kind of like, a tic-tac-toe type uh, pattern, where if we're looking at things from like an x-axis, then things should be off of it, and then it's off of that, and then it's off of that. And of course, when you're drawing, something with a giant featherly wingspan, that you can break some of those rules just a bit. But the biggest downside is that because we're dealing with this smaller clumps of feathers, is that when it gets to, I guess you could say, the main first row, they are going to have to be kind of in line with each other, and then you kind of work your way out. Which is a bit of a downside, but really. Okay, so now that those are roughed in, this is where it gets tricky and interesting. And this is where it starts to become a little bit less about the feel within, roughing this stuff together, and more about just uh, actually having to line the stuff up to a degree. Um, I don't smudge everything around with my hands. Puts on the glove. Let's see here. All right. Mm-hmm. Now I'm starting to think about the stagger just a bit. And I want to be doing, I guess, some more medium size roughings of feathers. So, for instance, if we've got this one right here and this one right here, then it'd be best we make feather. It's going to be about right there. Get rid of some of these extra lines. All right, so like the left side, I'm going to be kind of doing the same thing on the right side. If you're working on this digitally, yes, you could just copy and paste, doing this on different layers and stuff. It's very much possible. Um, but not the case. Doing it analog. All right. So now we got about 2 rows of medium-sized wings on both, medium-sized feathers on both sides. Now we're going to start basically throwing in much larger feathers, and by larger, I also mean longer. However, on the bottom side, it's going to be a little bit more of a medium, and then working our way up, which if there was more paper on either side, then we could obviously show a much longer wingspan, uh, especially with the length of the feathers themselves. So, basically just kind of roughing that in just a bit. All right. So now that that's kind of been roughed in, let's put this back to where I originally had it. I'm going to grab a thicker pencil or thicker lead, I should say. And I'm going to start dropping in some line weight. There it is. And at least grabbing in much heavier. And so what I'm going to be doing is just quickly within these feathers, just kind of put down the idea of just where shadow is going to be, simply because we've got Hawkgirl right here, and it makes sense that for more times than not, probably have some sort of light source. Not really in front, but it's not really behind. It's just it's one of those things where it's just kind of works in how you put it, which isn't a very astute or educated uh, I guess answer. But it's definitely one of those where it's just a lot easier to I guess just kind of show exactly what it is that I'm seeing. So as you can tell, since I'm putting in this black, as you can see, there are areas where this is going to be in black and others that aren't. Um, so it's one of those things where I kind of have to be a little bit in focus in terms of when it gets to me actually inking this thing. Uh, if not tomorrow, then definitely the early part of the week. That because I have put down those X's to give me an idea that I know exactly what I'm supposed to do, and I'm not accidentally putting ink down in some place that it doesn't need to be at. But what I am doing is, in some ways, kind of giving off a little bit of a rim light to where the feathers are. So when we get to the actual medium-sized feathers and then the larger feathers, so most of the short ones are going to be uh, basically in black, but what I'm thinking and what I'm seeing is that there's going to be a little less black mediums. Like it doesn't even reach the tips of these feathers. And it just kind of lightens up basically. So when I'm dropping in the ink, give me an idea in terms of the texture. And I'm going to go back with much lighter. Um, so cloud coverage and stuff like that, thinking it was probably just going to be back behind her and get a little bit lighter on the way down. Feeling a sneeze, and it's like, is it happening? Is it not? I don't know. All right. Believe that this is going to be a very good stopping point as far as just the pencils are concerned. So I'm just going to quickly, with the heavier pencil, just kind of shade in. All right. Some of the pencils are showing up on the camera and some of it isn't, but that is totally fine. Yeah, I think this is going to be a good stopping point as far as just time is considered, and more likely do the inking at some point this week, which I will post the final results of the whole finished thing so that everyone can see it. But do want to thank you guys for having to stick around as long as you have during the 2 hours and 15 minutes. Wow. I kind of got lost in my own drawing in this, and but you know what, that happens. But like I said earlier, it seems to be where I want it to be, and I am quite happy with that. So actually do this real quick, and then I'm going to do the final closing stuff regarding everything that you need to know as far as the end of the episode. Haven Comics is located at 1871 Slaughter Road, Suite F in Madison, Alabama. And in which case, Haven Comics is also selling the tickets for the Huntsville Expo, which is on April the 21st through 23rd. We do have single day passes, we do have weekend passes, so please, during store hours, stop by, get your tickets if you haven't done that yet. You can also get them online at wow, Jeremy, you didn't even put down the website for the Huntsville Expo. Either through Facebook or Google, type in Huntsville Comic and Pop Expo. It will send you straight to the website, which you can also buy these tickets online if you need to. I highly recommend buying a weekend pass in the event of, for instance, the day you want to go, you can't go, but at least you have 2 extra days that you can actually make it out there. I have no idea if there are still any VIP passes or not. You have to check that information on the Huntsville Comic Pop Expo websites because we do not know these things. We are only selling the single and the weekend passes. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you happen to like this video, please like, subscribe, follow. Click the little bell notification so you can keep yourself updated for whenever Haven Comics happens to be posting anything on YouTube or Facebook. In which case, if you happen to like the show and you're watching on YouTube, but you want to know where you can find me on social media, please remember to like and follow through linktree.com/tpriceartworks, where you can find me on every social media outlets, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, Mastodon, Hive. I've also been really bad about not mentioning my Patreon, which I do have. It's still there. It's still functional. Still posting things on it. I just never really talk about it that much. Which my Patreon, long story short, is basically just an exclusive subscription service where you get to get free artwork from me every month. Typically, it's a lot of stuff that people will be getting in advance before everyone else gets it within the general release dates of anything that I happen to do. All right. Thank you, Alan. Thank you. All right. Thank you again, guys. And I will see you guys next week, and we will be drawing Shazam, which I'm quite happy about. All right. See you later.